Welcome to another episode of The Camper Build. In this episode, we are going to go over the roof of the camper. This is just going to be a quick overview of the roof on how I made it. That's because this is just a temporary roof that I made. We were going on a road trip and I only had a couple weeks to get everything together. So this was the quickest, fastest way that I could figure out how to do it. So I'll go over how I made this, and I'm already working on version 2.0 of the roof, and that'll be in a separate video, but I'll give you a sneak peek of kind of what that's all about now. So on the previous videos, you can see that I have these hinges here. These are just 4x4 hinges from Home Depot, just regular door hinges. I've got 3 on each side for the roof, and then I got 4 on each side for the windows. But for the roof, the concept was that if you want to pop it up this way, you pull these 3 pins and it'll hinge on the other side. And if you want to pop it the other way, then you pop those hinges on the other side and then hinge it up on this side. So that's working really well. This is just a temporary solution. This was not meant to be permanent or anything like that. I need to come up with a better way to hinge everything and to kind of keep the pins in there. These are press fit hinges. That's probably why you see me hammering them all the time to get them out. So I have these hinges bolted directly to the 80/20. I did have to drill a couple extra holes in the hinges just because the existing holes on the hinge didn't line up with the T-slots. A few of them did, but I had to drill a few extras. So the idea is right now it's bolted on the face, but I wanted to have the 2 plates here of the hinge hidden between the rails, and the only thing sticking out is the barrel of the hinge. So instead of having all these hinges that you see, you'll just see the barrels of the hinges, which I thought would look a lot better than having just kind of a mess of hinges. So here's the 4x4 door hinge that I'm using from Home Depot. They got 3 different kinds. They got one with a square corner, one with a semi-rounded corner, and then one with a really rounded corner. This is the one in the middle. They only come in brown and chrome. So these have been working really well, actually a lot better than I was anticipating. So, but I still don't want to use this as a final solution, but I'm totally comfortable with the way it is right now. One thing to note that with the pin, so you kind of pound it out from this side and you have the head of the pin on this side. I do have all the pins facing the same way, so they face towards the front of the truck. And that way, just in case I don't have a pin in that's kind of dangling, the wind will kind of help keep it in, as opposed to the wind blowing it out down the road. But once these pins are in, they're not coming out unless you pound them out with a hammer. So you need something to push these pins out. And so what I did was I took the 6mm bolt that I had, and it's a socket head, and I ground one side smooth, so that way it would sit flush against the rail. And that's because what happens is when you push that hinge out, it needs to be parallel with the hinge. And so what happens is with that head, you can see there, that adds a little gap there, and it's just trying to go in at an angle. So as you get closer to the hinge, it gets bound up and gets stuck. So by grinding that smooth, so this whole bolt just kind of slides along that rail, it made things a lot easier. So here's a close-up of the hinge. You can see how they come. They come like this. So I had to drill all these holes to match the T-slots. For the windows, I was able to at least use 2 of the holes, existing holes on the hinges. So ignore all this right here. I'm working on this right now. So I got the bottom half of the wall out to work on that. And what you see on the tailgate is the wall behind the cab, which I'm redoing, I think, for the 4th time. I've come to realize that just make things simple. Just don't over-engineer it, don't overthink it. Just make it simple. And so that's kind of the approach I'm taking now. So here's one of the temporary braces that I'm using to pop up the camper. So the idea is that the camper side is going to be a hard side. It's going to extend the entire length of the camper, so it'll all be dried in. But for now, I just have these little pieces here. So the side panels are going to work the same way, where you have half a hinge on top and half a hinge on bottom. So basically, this is one hinge. So you see how you have the 3 on the top and the 2 on the bottom. And what you do is when you pop the pin out from the hinges on the side and then lift up the camper, these are the exact same hinges, and so they'll meet up with the hinges that you have on the top rail and the roof of the camper and brace everything up. So you utilize those hinges for two different purposes. One to hold the camper, or actually three. One to hold the camper, one to hinge the camper if you want to hinge it from the other side, and then the third is to brace it with the brace here, or actually brace it with the siding of the camper that I'm planning to use in the future here. So I just put this 2x4 here to kind of hold it open a little bit, so it just makes it a little easier to get those braces on, and so I don't have to get my fingers in here. It's not too much weight, but I still wouldn't want this thing crashing down on me. That's all there is to it, popping it up. Like I said, this whole side here is going to be covered with the side panel, but for now I just have the two braces there. I also have a lift mechanism that I made. This guy here, I still have it. I haven't used it for a while. Still trying to figure out the best way to do it, but I think I went over this in a previous video, but as soon as I come up with a better solution, I'll go over that. So you can see right now there really isn't that much to the roof, and it's pretty much constructed just like that top rail was. So in the back corner I have a 2x2 90 here on the inside, and then on the outside I have that 1x2 just like I have on the top rail. So here are all the roof crossbars for the camper, and I build them just like my other posts that I build. So for the 1 inch by 1 inch 80/20, I have these here where I just have a single taper to bolt into the rail there, and then for the 1x2 I have the two tapers there. So starting from the back of the camper, I have a 1x1 piece of 80/20, and then I move to a 1x2, and then a 1x1, and then a 1x2 again, and then the front of the camper. So the reason why I have this layout for the crossbars is because I'm using 040 aluminum sheets, and the width is 4 feet, and so this is right in the middle, so I just put a little 1x1 here for support. And then when you come up to the 2x2, this is two sheets here that join, and so they join here in the middle, so I can bolt this sheet to this top slot and then this sheet to this top slot, and you'll see that when I show you the top of the camper. So here's the roof of the camper, starting from the back of the camper. This is a 4-foot sheet, and so you can see here, this is the middle where I have the 1x1 support. The spacing I have between the bolts is 6 inches, which I've been having a hard time trying to figure out what spacing I want. I think 6 inches is too far because it doesn't give you a very tight fit and it leaks a little bit. And then here you have the joint between the two, where you have a 1x2 right here for the crossbar, where each side goes into the different slot of the 80/20. You come up to the second sheet, and then another mid 1x1 support, and then the other 2x2 support, and then the front. Here's how I originally wanted to build the roof of the camper, and actually that's how I'm building it right now. So I have a piece of 040 aluminum here, 040 aluminum, some 1 inch insulation, and it would fit together like this. And then you take your quarter round, and the whole assembly will go together like that. And then for the hinge, it would attach to the bottom slot of the quarter round here, and then this would attach to the top rail of the camper. And then so that way everything's kind of hidden inside except for the barrel of the hinge. So a recurring thing of the camper build is that I had a road trip, and so I pretty much threw everything together really fast. And so same thing with the roof, whereas like the quarter round wasn't going to work because I didn't really have a way to get that hinge mounted on the bottom. So I just started out with a piece of 1x1, and I thought I could just use the door hinges, which I ended up using, and just bolt it to the side of the 80-20 like that, so just like I had before. And then I noticed I had this big overlap here with the hinge, and so I didn't really want to cut the hinges at that point. So instead of using the 1x1, I used the 2x2, and so that really worked out well. So it kind of got a really good solid connection there with the hinge. And so that's currently what I have on the camper now, and it's what I've been using for the past year. So like I said, this was always meant to be a temporary roof. That top rail, the roof rail of the camper, was actually supposed to be used for the extension part of the camper, where I have the top rail of the camper here, and then I was going to put some vertical supports, and then I was going to put the extension rail above that, and then the quarter round roof. So it all worked out really well to get everything going, and so I can get the camper on the road and then build the roof the way I wanted to do it a little later. So here's a quick look at the new roof of the camper, which is not going well. So with the 040 aluminum, I was trying to make some pans with some insulation on the inside, and then attaching everything to a quarter round and putting all the T-nuts in there. And you can see how I have it on. And I'll go over all the problems I'm having. I think it's going to work, but it's just not the way I want it to work. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the camper build. Anyways, I got to go. I'm late for a concert.